So I'll just quickly introduce about myself. So my name is Lokesh Gupta, and I currently work as a director of product management at Cardigo. And so I graduated from IT Delhi in 2004, and I've been working in technology domain for the last 13 and more years. I worked with 99 Acres, Exigo, Naukri.com, and I've also authored two books on email marketing and product management. So since we have close to 35 minutes now, so the structure of this webinar would be something like this. So we will cover the basics of product conceptualization process and take an overview of the wireframing process within product conceptualization. And finally, we'll explore Balsamiq tool and we'll create some wireframes for a dummy project. Yeah. Finally, if we have some time, we'll take some questions, or you can send me questions over email. I'll be happy to answer those questions. So without further delay, let's jump in. So since you come from a product background, or you guys are interested in product management, so you guys might be knowing that product manager in any company has to work with multiple stakeholders within and outside the company. And primarily he or she has to work with the technology, design, business teams, and also keep team higher management in loop for various product initiatives. So it is imperative that we all talk and understand this language, and so that nothing is left to ambiguity. When a new product or a product feature is planned, most of the things are vague and lack depth. And over the course of product development, things become more sorted. Everybody understands the product vision, and ultimately a product is designed and developed and finally launched. But everything starts with an idea, and things are discussed or brainstormed verbally. So as a result, many times it happens that stakeholders do not understand the nuances of product being built, and that's where a formal product conceptualization process comes into picture. So essentially, this process involves a basic set of features identified by a product team, which includes not only the product features but the overall workflow, how the different features talk to each other, how the overall user flow happens. And during this idea stage, product manager will also define how the customer pain points will be served, how the product will deliver its intended benefit. But many times it happens, and especially with new product managers or startup founders who have little experience in product development, it happens that the team jumps right into development stage and start coding with little to no thought about the way product will behave. Guys, can you mute yourself? Just a minute. So I was saying that many times it happens that due to lack of product management processes, the development team directly jumps into the product development or the coding part without actually thinking about how the product will behave or it will look like. And as a result, there is a lot of rework. When the coder shows some product to the higher management, they will realize that that was not the idea of how a product should look and behave. And it ultimately results in loss of time and money, and everybody has to rework everything. And as a result, there is no proper thought process around how the idea should ultimately convert into a product. And that's where the second step, blueprint, comes into picture. Ultimately, product manager has to create a blueprint of how the product will look and behave, and so that it can be unanimously accepted by all the stakeholders, and handed over to the technology team for development, and finally the sales and marketing team for launch, and sales to the customers. Sometimes it also happens that you have a designers in the team when the team is big, and they also have their own expectations regarding the user experience. So an ideal product conceptualization process involves moving from an idea to a blueprint stage, where all stakeholders agree how the product should look and behave, and then finally it moves to the development. Now, within a blueprint stage, there are further three steps. Essentially, a product manager has to work on the wireframes, which we'll talk about in a few minutes from now. And ultimately, those wireframes are converted into a mock-ups and finally a working prototype. So we'll cover prototypes and mock-ups in the next session on next Sunday. But in today's session, we'll talk about wireframes in detail. If you have any questions, probably since there are very few people right now, so you can ask questions, and I'll try to answer as quickly as possible, or else we can do it at the end of the session. Now, what are wireframes? So wireframes are essentially a blueprints of any product, and they're equivalent to what blueprints are to any building. So when an architect starts creating a blueprint before a building is, you know, gets into development stage, same happens with any product development in technology domain. A sample wireframe is shown to you guys on the left, while on the right you can see a house blueprint, and you can see that there are essentially more or less a lot of similarities in how a product is developed or how a building is uh, developed. Yeah. Any given product or web or mobile has a bunch of screens, and each screen has various elements like text, images, videos, links. Even you guys are seeing my screen, so essentially we are using Zoom. So within this screen also there are a bunch of different things. So essentially at the top you have this menu where you can see various options. So when you start building a similar product, you have to put everything on a screen using a wireframes. So ultimately, wireframes helps you to visualize the same by creating an outline for these elements in the form of placeholders. For example, on the right, you have a sample wireframe of Twitter feeds. You can see that there are placeholders for images, you have a placeholder for feeds. On the left side, you have people who are followed or whom you're following, as well as there are boxes for different things like a user profile or latest trends. And then there are, on the top you have boxes for top menu, as well as search box. So essentially wireframes helps you put all these things into perspective, so that you can share it with the different team members, and immediately can get some feedback. And so wireframes are essentially but nothing but a set of boxes or wires, and that's how the name came into practice. They're called wireframes. So essentially, wireframes are something like so. Initially, when you come up with an idea, ultimately the idea has to has to be converted into a product, and that's where the wireframe helps everybody, especially the design team, to plan ahead. Um if they are verbally given some idea about the product being built, they'll not be able to create a solid UX, and things will have to be reworked in multiple iterations. So essentially, wireframes help you keep the cost down and create everything in a well planned manner. And overall, it's very easy to share the wireframes within your team members to higher management, and they will give their own feedbacks, and this will reduce the risk of rework, and overall, it will be more cost efficient. But wireframes do have certain limitations. So, for example, they are static, uh, and they lack a lot of visual features like colors, as well as images and other rich elements. And so, ultimately, you cannot show it to end users and get some feedback. But you can only show it to internal stakeholders. And also, if your ultimate product has a lot of features like animations or graphics or gestures, you will not be able to put it on the wireframes. So there are these limitations with wireframes. So wireframes can be created in a multiple different ways. You can use freehand sketch. These are some of the simplest and widely used methods, where you can simply draw them on paper or on whiteboard. But this method is not manageable, and sharing them with the remote teams is difficult. There are other issues related to legibility and incorporating feedbacks or maintaining versions. And then so typically the most of the product teams use specialized design softwares like either Photoshop or Illustrator, or design tools like Adobe XD, Mockingbot, and Balsamiq. And then there are hundreds of tools available for wireframes, both free as well as paid, and open source as well. So you can simply Google it, and you will find tons of different softwares for wireframes. For this session, we'll use Balsamiq. It's a very easy to use software. Uh, so I personally I use Balsamiq at Cardecco, and in different previous organizations as well. So what we'll do is, for this session, we'll explore Balsamiq and use it to create a sample mobile app wireframes. Our sample mobile app helps new or stay-at-home moms get expert advice from coaches on health, childcare, and career-related topics. Now, depending on the time we have, we'll quickly explore Balsamiq tool and create wireframes for various screens like login, sign up, home screen, etc. To speed up things, I've already done some research at my end for this idea and created a list of elements and that will go on various pages. So let's deep dive into Balsamiq. But before that, I'll be happy to answer any questions. Um, Let me know if you have any questions, and as I'll start using the Balsamiq. Any question? Cool. Then what I'll do is I'll just head over to Balsamiq. So Balsamiq typically gives you a 30-day free trial. So right now I'll be using a free trial account. So you can register using your own Gmail ID. So it has both a desktop as well as web version, and you can create multiple projects, both in the free and the paid account. So I'll quickly create a new project. You can rename your project as well as I'll name this project as Mom Coach, and on the top you can see a lot of different assets which you can use on your wireframes, and you can build it for web as well as for Android, as well as there are all sorts of containers and all sorts of popular form elements that are available. So we'll just start with a basic Android uh, login screen. You can just drag it and put it on the canvas. You can change the name of the wireframe. So essentially, our login screen will have a input box. You can double click on it and you can enter the labels. Email address. You can copy paste. You can add a button for a sign up. Then there are all sorts of elements like a link. So you can keep a link here and say forward password. You can add a logo image, a placeholder. You can import a file or you can just keep a placeholder here. Later on, this placeholder can be used by the design team to actually add some logo for this project. So as you can see that within like 30 seconds, you were able to create a login screen. Now it's far more clear than what if you just give some outline to your design team or engineering team that you have to create a login page which has a logo at the top and two input boxes. But essentially, uh, uh, since this is a very simple screen, so probably your design team can create some UI. But when it comes to a very complex elements, the other team stakeholders will not be able to comprehend what you intend to say verbally. Moving on, what we'll do is we'll create another wireframe, sign up. Just to save time, what I'll do is I'll just copy paste this and put it here. I'll remove couple of things. So now we have a sign up page as well as a login screen. You can add some kind of comments for your team, design team. So for example, you can say that I need some, show error message with email address. So your design team can see the design team or the development team can take cues from these comments. Now what we'll do is we'll move on to our second other screens like which are like search or the listing pages. I'll again create a blank screen. I'll get a search coach. This time I'll use a couple of labels. You can add icons, double click icon, and then you can search for different. There are tons of different icons available. So, for example, I'll search for a hamburger menu. I'll add an image placeholder for a small logo here. I'll add a search box for searching a coach. And then you can add a containers. So I'll add a bunch of different containers for suggested coaches. And I'll add a label here, top coaches. And then I'll add a link here. As a product manager, you have to think of all the small, elements or the way the user experience will look like, or how the various elements can help you drive the engagement on the app. So the first step would be creating wireframes and keeping things into perspective. So for example, my user would be interested not only in searching but also looking up at top coaches across various categories. So your coaches. I'll add a horizontal rule just to separate the these categories. And your wireframe do not needs to be perfect. The idea is to just showcase how your final elements would look like, so that it will become an input to your design team. So within like a minute or so, we were able to create a search page. We had this login screen, a sign up screen, and then a search screen. Now I'll just duplicate this screen and I'll rename it as hamburger menu screen. So what I'll do is I'll just put a layer on top of this, which will be open when you click a hamburger menu. And I'll put a small shape here, which will signify the user image. I'll put a small icon. You can copy the icon and again you can add all sorts of links here, like sessions, logout. So depending on your product requirement, you can add all your links here, and you can have a close button. So this is how my hamburger menu will look like. And similarly, create multiple other pages. So I'll quickly create another screen, which is like a listing page for coaches. I'll copy this screen. I'll remove these one. So you're gonna copy a line of text. So now you have a search listing page. You can add more details depending on your requirements, and the more the better, because it will help your designers to keep perspective of what all the information is to be placed on the app screen, and accordingly the icons, the designs, and the colors can be added, and depending on your theme as well as the input from your marketing team. So as we see that in the last 10 minutes, we were able to create five, six different screens, and it was so easy to use. Now what you can do is you can export it PDF, and you can share it among your team members. You can present it to your top management so that they'll be able to see how the finished product will look like, or you can share it among your team members. There is a link at the top which you can share with your team members, and they'll be able to see it, and you can also make it public. and share it with your friends to get some early feedback. So, guys, I have roughly around 7 minutes now. So, if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer, or else we can wrap it up. Because this project is pretty big, and I'm also working on this for my book project. So, as you know, that my book is coming out, so I'll be developing all these screens for my book, and the files will be available as part of the book. So it's a very big project with almost like 25 to 30 screens. So which will not be possible to create in this session. But I think you got an idea as to how a wireframe would work, how it will help you to get feedback from different stakeholders and ultimately provide it as an input to your design or a development team. So happy to answer any questions. Or for that matter, any questions around product management or the way product managers do any queries around that, I'll be happy to answer.
Anyone speaking?
Hello, Lokesh.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah, hi.
I just post my message. Sorry, my question in the group. Is there any way we can present this basic wireframe into a responsive screen to know how user will behave? Because we will have some basic users who might be going to use this particular product. If you want to improve the basic workflow, we can present it directly to them if it's we are able to make this as a responsive screens, right? Instead of presenting it in a laptop to the end user, we can able to present it uh, from their phone, from our phone to them. It will be helpful us to iterate more and more to user friendliness, right? Is there any way?
Sorry, I didn't get your question. Are you asking that whether these wireframes are responsive or not?
Yeah, I want to present this wireframing in my mobile phone to the users, like end users kind of stuff.
So yeah, you can do that. So Balsamiq and most of these tools provide a way to create responsive wireframes. So it's very easy to build using these tools, and these wireframes would be mobile responsive, and you can show it to your users on your device.
Okay. So, but how is there any APK provided by this Balsamiq, or how will that be done?
No. So either you can use their app, or you can
Okay.
download their desktop version. And so they typically what they do is they will let you share it using a URL, which will in itself will be a mobile responsive.
Okay.
So for example, I'll just show you. So this is the URL which you can use it to share.
Okay.
And you can open it on your this. So right now I'm opening it on desktop, but you can open it on your mobile device as well. And since I'm already logged in, so it's giving me all the interfaces. But people who have not joined on Balsamiq will see a cleaner version of this page.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other question?
Hey, Lokesh, am I audible?
Yeah. Hi. Who's this?
This is Aman.
Hi, Aman.
The one. Okay, so while you have explained how to make wireframes and through this tool, Balsamiq, I just wanted to know if there are some principles of designing that you would want to share, like do's and don'ts, and like what are the basically principles of basically good design, like
Sure.
the fundamental.
Sure. So I think wireframe should be as simple as possible to start with. Typically, what I've seen is that many product managers tend to add a lot of colors as well as graphics into wireframe itself, and most of these tools provide the facility. So, for example, in Balsamiq also, you can add a lot of colors as well as images, but ultimately that will lose the essence of wireframes. The colors and all those things can wait till a mock-up or a prototype stage. The first step for wireframe is to just to understand how the product should behave or look like in the initial phases, so that you can take this concept to different stakeholders and especially the top management, because Typically, in my experience, what I've seen is that your CEO would give you some vague idea about the product or product feature, and then you have to create all sorts of product features around that idea. And when you start adding colors and all those things, so the core essence will be lost, and you'll not be able to brainstorm in depth. So try to keep it as simple as possible, so that the other design principles can be taken by the design team or the UX experts. And so typically that comes at a later stage. So that's what I can say from a wireframe perspective.
Sure, sure. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks, Aman. So I think I've got less than a minute, and then this webinar will be stopped automatically. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask. Else, what I'll do is I'll share all the PPT as well as these wireframes to you over mail. And if you guys have any question or doubt around this or anything around product management, feel free to ping me. I guess then time to say goodbye. Thank you so much for joining on Sunday evening. Thank you guys. I'll take a leave now. Thank you.